Doing an excellent job, Jay. Great to see you. We're going to have a Q&A and then open it up to the media if you have any questions for Jay Dees. 1 day away from Wilder Fury #2. This microphone's on, right, gentlemen?
Check.
There we go. 1 day away from Wilder Fury 2 live on ESPN Plus and Fox Sports pay-per-view. Great to see all the media around. I see Steve Kim, Keith Heidick as well. Brian Campbell, Mark Abrams around here. So George Willis, you know it's a big fight when George Willis is in the house. So let's talk with Jay. Jay, how is Deontay feeling a day away from this mega fight? Because this is the legacy-defining fight in his career. He's had a lot of big moments, but this is a legacy fight for both men.
I mean, he feels great. The thing about it is, coming off the quick turnaround from the last fight, which we fought in November, late November, we only had about a month off. So when he came in camp on day one, I said, like, this is like week 3. This is not day 1 stuff. This is like week 3. So at that point, really, our thing was to slow it down a little bit because he was way ahead of schedule. So we've been able to do that. We've been able to get him in a position to peak at the right time, which is tomorrow night. You want to be better on fight night than the night before or the night after, and that's a moving target. So it's not just a matter of reaching that target. You have to push a little bit sometimes and pull back sometimes. And I think that we're in prime position for him to be peaked tomorrow night for the biggest fight of his life.
Are you concerned at all? And it is the fact that Tyson Fury fought in September, so he had another 2-month break before Deontay stepped inside the ring, more than a 2-month break. Are you concerned at all? And I know you mentioned him hitting his peak tomorrow night. Is there a concern about possibly having been overtrained because Deontay is such an active champion?
No, I mean, I think if Deontay could fight every 3 weeks, he would. But of course, it takes longer to promote the fight. So I look at it as an advantage. You know, going into the first Fury fight, everybody said Fury has been inactive. But if you look at it, in truth, Fury had 2 fights since Deontay had last fought going into the first fight. So it was actually Fury who did have a layoff before all that, but going into the fight, he had fought twice since Deontay had last fought, so he was the more active guy. This time, we fought most recently, late November as opposed to mid-September. So those few months, I think, bode well for us. I think Deontay does better when he's more active, and I think Fury's the same. So I think having an extra few months off is not probably the best thing for a guy like Fury, but Deontay being active, I think, is great.
What is your response to when Tyson Fury states Deontay Wilder is at home in his home gym, he's with his family, he's eating the food that he wants, and he's comfortable? Essentially, Tyson Fury is proclaiming, hey, look, I went to Las Vegas, I've been away from my family. He had an interview on ESPN. I'm a fellow Diet Coke drinker, and he goes, I haven't had Diet Coke in about 8 weeks to 10 weeks. I haven't put nothing bad in my mouth, and I see that he's eating well. What is your response to what Tyson Fury's saying about Deontay Wilder being too comfortable at home, even though he's done this throughout his career?
Yeah, well, you just answered the question. This is what Deontay is comfortable with. He's happy when his kids are near him, when he's got a very nice place, a house that he relaxes in, and it's home. I think every fighter is different. Some guys probably do need to get away, and they need the isolation, and they need the kind of the pain and suffering of that. But Deontay's not one of those guys. He's happy at home. He does well. His peace of mind is there, and so that's why we do it.
Do you feel like, you hear about, everyone talks about the concussive knockout power of Deontay Wilder, over a 95% knockout percentage, the highest in heavyweight history. But in my opinion, Jay, do you think that Wilder doesn't get enough credit for his pure boxing skill and his fundamentals?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think he does not get the credit because it's one thing to throw a 47-punch combination on YouTube, where everybody looks at the camera and, you do 47 punches with, 3 hips, 4 slips, 5 dips. and everybody oohs and ahs, but it's different when you're in the ring. So the skills relative to being in the ring, the timing, the spacing, the distance, the positioning, all that probably is the most skill. But that's the things that people don't really see. Look, when you have Deontay Wilder's right hand, everybody's first thing is we don't want to get hit by that. So they're not just going to be there for you to land it. So all those small, intricate skill level things that get you in a position to be hit, to get people in a position where you can hit them with that, when you know that's what they're trying first and foremost not to happen, though that's real skill. Setting those traps, those incremental inches like against Ortiz. Everybody says, oh, you're losing rounds. There's battles, which is the rounds, and then there's the war, which is the result. So if you lose some battles, but you get in a position, you get the flank to win the war is you've won the war. So it's okay to lose a few battles if you're going to win the war. And that's what Deontay was working toward a conclusion. He wasn't just going out there and, he dropped around here or there. He was working toward a conclusion. And in the 6th round, I knew we were there. In the 6th round, I said, okay, now we're at a position where we're landing the shot. We can land the shots we want to land because footwork-wise, spacing, timing, distance-wise, we're where we need to be. And within a round and a half, the fight was over.
So that doesn't play into your mind because getting back to your point about in that fight with Ortiz here back in November, that it looked like Deontay was losing some of the early rounds, but there is never a panic or there's never a time you fought Ortiz. The first time when Fury was giving you the looks, various looks and things that Deontay never seen in the first fight, but I never see a sense of panic. I never see a sense of urgency. You guys are so locked in and dialed into what you're doing. What is the key to you and Mark Breland being so relaxed and composed as to be thinking, look, we know we still got this?
Well, Mark is relaxed and composed all the time. So that's not the issue. Mark
former
is like,
world champion and Olympic gold medalist.
Being around Mark is it's like being at a mime convention. I mean, he's just a quiet dude, you know. And but somehow Deontay can hear him. So Mark will be, and Deontay hears that.
Yeah.
It's amazing because I'm right next to him. And when Mark is giving advice to Deontay between rounds, generally speaking, I can't really tell what he's saying unless I kind of read his lips. But Deontay hears him, and Deontay knows what he's trying to get across. So for us, we know what the game plan is, and if the game plan is working, regardless of what the general public may be seeing, but if we're getting where we need to get, then we're cool and calm. And if the game plan needs to change, then we move into that mode. But that's why we're cool and calm. We're just working toward a conclusion. We're working the problems and working the situations.
Okay, so you obviously know your fighter better than anybody on the planet. But to the consensus, in this fight against Tyson Fury the second time, are you focused on not giving away those earlier rounds like what happened in the first fight? Because with Deontay Wilder's eraser, some can say maybe he's going to be too reliant on trying to land that home run shot. And even though it has happened in every single opponent that he's connected upon, what if tomorrow night he can't land that home run shot, Jay?
Well, I thought Deontay won the early rounds of the first fight. Mm-hmm. So I thought Deontay won the early rounds. Fury worked his way back into the fight in the middle rounds. Deontay scored the knockdown in the 9th. Fury had a real good 10th and 11th. Yeah. And Deontay scored the knockdown in the 12th, which I thought won us the fight. So I thought we did some good work early on, but I think your point is well taken. It's a little different than Ortiz. Mm-hmm. With Fury, I think you have to make some inroads early, and you can't be going to round 8 or 9 and you're down on the rounds and you haven't done anything. You haven't. Even though we want to be patient, and we want to be precise and calculating, but we've got to get some work done. Earlier in the fight, there has to be some progress made.
You stand and I believe you hold the mitts for Deontay, if I'm correct.
He has 3. I'm actually one of 3, so I think he's the only fighter in the world with 3 mitt men.
So let me ask you this, because I'm around and I've been fortunate to be around Deontay Wilder several years. When he comes on stage and he shouts "Bomb Squad," it scares the heck out of me. Much less You are in the ring training with him as he is hurling shots at your mitts. I would be petrified. How do you get that work in and remain so composed when this guy is connecting with full force, and I'm sure your skeleton moves in ways that it's not meant to move?
I'll tell you, the chiropractor came in yesterday, we got adjusted, and he was like, what in the world is going on with you? And I think my L7 and my L4 actually met at some point. But I think it's a thing where, I've been hit many times by errant shots by Deontay, and he hit me up under the protector one time, and I had a hernia surgery from that.
Oh my gosh.
Another time he hit the actual body protector for the last camp with a left hook and separated the rib from the cartilage.
Oh my gosh.
Dislocated Mark's shoulder, fractured Cuz's fingers and his thumb. So it's just a power that's unlike anything else. But yeah, you do. It's part of the job. It's there's no sympathy. You get hit or you get hurt, you just keep going because it's ultimately we got to get the job done, and that's. I'll probably be lucky if I can, find my mailbox in 10 years, from the punches I've taken. But at the same time, there's a job to be done. So that's 3 of us team up, and that helps a lot. That no one person has to do 10 rounds on the mitts. We split it up.
I hope the champ gives you guys hazard pay because man, oh man, that is no easy task. With Deontay Wilder, this is generational power, and I'm going to make a bold statement as this say. I don't know if we will ever see this again or within the next 20 to 25 years because of what he's been able to do to his opponents. Do you feel the same way? You've been around the game for a long time.
Yeah, I think that is a generational power type of thing. They say that when you get hit by George Foreman, it was like getting hit by a Mack truck at 35 miles an hour. Like you feel every inch of the pain. They said when you get hit by Mike Tyson, you don't actually feel anything. It's just that you're on the ground and your body doesn't work,
Yes.
And I think Deontay's a little bit of both. He can hit you on the forearm or hit you on the shoulder, and it's just immensely painful. But then again, he can also clip you, and it's not something that physically you felt, but it just totally took your senses away from your body. So I think he's actually an anomaly, that he's a little bit of both.
Against Tyson Fury, every great fighter needs that proper foil. The guy to push him over the limit. A guy to help propel to make him great. Not saying Deontay Wilder isn't great already, because I think both guys are great fighters, world-class champions. However, they've been going back and forth. But Jay, you can tell us, and it won't leave this room, but I almost feel like even though they are involved in trash talk with one another, I feel like there is such a respect between the two, and when they're not fighting, I have this premonition that they actually like each other, that they both are these alpha males, that they get the best out of one another. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I do. I think when they both go into the Hall of Fame one day, I think they will be the best of friends, and I think that they do like each other and they respect each other, no doubt. But I also think that they're both very competitive people. They're both alpha males. They're both very, very confident in their abilities. They both want the same thing, and only one of them can have it. And that's where the tension comes in, and that's where the trash talking comes in, and the pushing and shoving. It's not fake, it's very real, but it's real because they're both so competitive, not from something where they wouldn't get along. Deontay has had fighters, I think, that he's fought in his career that he probably won't ever be friends with or whatever, but for the most part, fighters like each other and they respect each other and all that, and I think that's the case here. It's just that they're both so competitive and they want the same thing.
Well, what I love about this promotion is that it hasn't really been distasteful. It has been two guys that are just like, I'm the best in the world, no, I'm the best in the world, and I'm gonna prove it on Saturday night. It is the highest form of prize fighting that we are at, and neither man is taking a bad route when it comes to the promotion of that, Jay.
Well, I think that speaks to the class of both guys. And you got to remember, this is the biggest prize in sports. 2 undefeated guys, both huge personalities, both huge men, boxer versus puncher, but the puncher can box and the boxer can punch. So there's a lot of room in between those two boxer-puncher lines that this thing could go a lot of different ways. And I think that this is the fight that people should appreciate, because everybody says, when are we going to get the big fights? Why don't the best fight the best and all that? Well, this is that. This is that moment. There's no need to talk about anything on the flip side of this or in the future. Let's appreciate this. Everybody's getting what they wanted. So I think that's where the focus and the attention needs to be, is tomorrow night, because it just doesn't happen that often. But now you've got two networks coming together. You've got everybody that they paved a road. And so now we just need to keep driving on the road, making the big fights happen, regardless of network affiliation.
Well, the way that I look at this, and we were going to open up to the media, is this promotion, and having been involved in it, very fortunate. It almost seems like the United Nations of boxing, Jay. I feel like we're all coming together. We're all at this summit, and we have this big moment tomorrow night, and everyone is playing nice and acting in a classy manner. I think that this is beautiful for the sport, and in my opinion, it opens up the possibility for those bigger fights to happen on both ends.
Our training camp was like a United Nations. We had Junior Fa from New Zealand, flew him in from New Zealand, Emmanuel Odiasi from Germany, Robert Alfonso from Cuba, Malik Scott from Los Angeles, Stephen Shaw from St. Louis, Emron Sands from the Bahamas, Craig Lewis from Detroit, and just goes on and on. So, we were trying to find the right mix of guys that could give us the best look, and it just so happened that we had to scour the earth to do it.
Well, now we're going to open up to the media. If you have questions for one of the trainers of the Bronze Bomber, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder, Steve Kim, it's all you.
Thanks, Ray. Steve Kim, ESPN. Jay, I saw recently you're now a licensed judge. Has that changed your perspective at all in terms of how you corner? Has it changed any of your views on how you approach fights?
I forged the license, so no. I used to, the thing is, in Alabama, there's not a lot of us, so I've done cuts, trained, promoted, ring announced, all because, and not from any skill level, but just because there's nobody to do it. You have to learn to do it. So I've judged as well. So I probably have done 30 or so shows in my life, and they had a fallout in Mississippi and asked me to come down and judge. And the only reason I was on TV, and this is the absolute truth, is I'm the only judge that showed up in a suit and tie because I didn't know the protocol. And so the other judges were in sweatpants and shirts, and they said, well, you're the guy in the suit and tie, so we're going to put you opposite the national TV camera. So that's the only reason I was there. And the funny thing about it was, I didn't realize this, but I judged the fight exactly like I watched sparring. So I'm sitting there kind of on TV, and I'm like, and so it was kind of, but I really enjoyed it. I would like to do more of it in the future. It doesn't change how I train fighters or anything like that. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. Having trained fighters probably affects how I judge. I think I'm more apt to not just see a 16-0 guy against a 20-20 guy and assume the 16-0 guy is going to win, because I've been in the corner of some 20-20 guys who have pulled upsets and not gotten the results, And so I'm more apt to maybe try to see it for what it is and not look anything past to it. But as a result, the judges all did a great job that night, and I think we got all the results right, which is what you want. But I think I do probably see it a little different.
George Willis.
Hey Jay, George Willis, New York Post. You said Tyson has to get a little more work done between rounds 1 and 9. What specifically does he have to do that maybe he didn't do in the first fight or against Ortiz?
Well, I think the first fight, Deontay would tell you himself that he pressed. He wanted to impress so bad, and he wanted things to go so well on his first major pay-per-view type of an event that he pushed. He was too anxious and he pushed too hard. And it's like baseball. When you try for a knockout, that's pretty much the guarantee you're not going to get the knockout. I mean, I'm sorry, when you like baseball, when you try for a home run, it's when you're not going to get the home run. And I think with boxing, it's the same thing. When you just go through your normal progression, you're much more likely to get the result you're looking for, as opposed to, actively trying to get that result. And so this time, I think it's just going to be a more patient effort where Deontay is doing what he needs to do to successfully get those early rounds and make a lot of progress. but at the same time not force things, because I think Fury is so good that the worst thing you can do is try to overdo it, because I think that works in his favor when you do that, because he's quite a counterpuncher, and he's very strong-minded, and that's you just don't want to play into his game. You want to play it on your field, not his field.
Keith Heidick, BoxingScene.com. Jay, do you view?
Can we raise the microphone to the media as well? I mean, it's kind of hard.
Can you hear me or no? Can you hear me? Do you view the fact that Tyson Fury changed trainers as an advantage for you guys because he doesn't have nearly as much familiarity with Javon Hill as Deontay has with you?
About changing trainers, right, Keith? About changing trainers, about Tyson Fury going to Sugar Hill? Yes.
Right. Well, I think that's an advantage for us because we've been together for me and Deontay 15 years, which is longer than probably most of you have been married, So it's one of those things that it's 15 years is a long time, right? And our team works together very well. We have a chemistry. We even between rounds of sparring, we work the corner as if we're in a fight. Put the stool in, go up the stairs, and everything. We continue to practice that. And everybody at some point in camp will trade places, just because you never know if something's going to happen where you have to trade places. So I feel like our chemistry is very good. I know that Tyson and Javon Sugar have worked together in the past, but now this is probably a different type of working together. And I'm interested to see if the 2 months can get them the chemistry they needed. I know even though Dominic Breazeale is a fantastic fighter and Virgil Hunter is a fantastic trainer, it was a short thing for them as well. And I don't think they quite got where they wanted to get as fighter and trainer, even though they're both great. So we're going to see what happens with this. I do know that Ben Davison, who I'm a big fan of, did a tremendous job. And Tyson knows how to box regardless of who's in his corner anyway. So I know he's going to be good, and I know Javon's going to be good. I think Ben and Tyson, like I said the other night, it's kind of like a Lennon and McCartney type of thing, where there's just a magic when Tyson and Ben are together that maybe you're not going to get with Ben and somebody else, even though they're both fantastic individually. When they were together, there's a whole nother level. So we'll see.
Hi, this is Lance Puckmeyer with The Athletic. Hi, Jay. Just wanted to ask you, there's so much talk about what Fury intends to do and getting close to Deontay. You know Deontay. His power is not necessarily, only reachable within long distance. He can crack these guys up close too. How do you see this fight going, and how do you see that situation happening if Tyson is close? What will Deontay do to land those power punches?
Well, that's where your footwork comes into play, and if Tyson comes after Deontay, of course, it's going to lead to some chances some opportunities for Deontay to capitalize. If Fury tries to maul him and make a dirty, ugly fight out of it, I think footwork comes into play. Most people, common sense tells you need to be either inside or outside of Deontay's power and not at the end of it. But with Deontay's footwork, he can get you at the end of that power, when you're not really, because he's moving as well, right? So if you're trying to get closer, he can change those angles. So it's going to be very interesting to see if that actually happens.
More questions for Jay Dees. If you have any more, by all means, we are getting ready to wrap it up. Jay obviously is very busy and has a lot of things going on, so we have a couple more questions. Go ahead.
Jay, right here.
Go ahead.
Marcus Hayes, Fight Hub TV. Jay, I wanted to ask you, I've been hearing you talking about Deontay Wilder using his footwork to kind of create distance, and I've been hearing a narrative that Tyson Fury wants to bring the fight to Wilder and get closer on the inside. My question to you is, have you guys worked on body shots? With Deontay Wilder having so much power, is it part of the game plan to go to Fury's body to break him down?
Well, that was actually part of the game plan the first time as well. If anybody in boxing is hard to hit, in the head, it's Tyson Fury. So logic would dictate that if you're having a problem hitting the head, you zero down and start trying to hit lower than the head, because it's much tougher to move the body than it is the head. Footwork for both guys is going to be crucial. And who can get in the position to land the shots that they need to land, that's crucial. And whereas in a lot of fights, your height is, to a degree, your defense, because typically you're much taller than the guy you're fighting. In this case, it's 6'7" against 6'9" is kind of like 5'7" against 5'9". So there is the possibility of rolling under shots, which is not necessarily something you'd do if you were fighting a 6'1" or 6'2" guy. So there's a lot of things that come into it. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, obviously, I can attest from my rib separation from the cartilage what Deontay's capable of doing to the body.
Jay, final question, but it almost seems like the way you're describing, attacking an opponent that is elusive and is a mover. I don't know if you're an NBA guy, you're a basketball guy, but they tell you when you're guarding an offensive player, don't pay attention to the head movement and the shimmies. Pay attention to the body, because the body will not move and you will be able to focus in on that and target it. So is that kind of the approach for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think Fury, he's mentally tough and he plays a lot of games. He puts the hands behind the back. He moves his head, sticks his tongue out, and it's all part of what he does. So we're prepared for whatever he does. Hopefully nobody is swayed by the fact that he raises his hands at the end of a round. Mikey Garcia raised his hands at the end of every round against Errol Spence. He wasn't winning those rounds, but he raised his hands at the end of them. For some reason, Tyson Fury will raise his hands at the end of the round and everybody just assumes, well, I guess he won the round. That's not always the case. So I think that's part of it. What Fury's real strength is taking a 3-minute round and kind of making a 1-minute round out of it and then trying to win the 1 minute. And so there may be rounds where he's thrown 11 punches and landed 5. And then at the end of the round, the hands go up and everybody, oh, he must have won that. Yeah. So I think to a certain degree, he's a showman and he knows how to coach rounds out of judges. But I think we've got 3 great judges and a great referee for this one, and I feel really good about it.
Jay, final question. If everything goes according to plan for the Bronze Bomber, Deontay Wilder, and your entire team tomorrow, what does this victory over Tyson Fury do for Deontay Wilder right now in the world spotlight and also from a legacy standpoint?
Well, I mean, I already think he's a Hall of Famer, having done what he's done, coming up on 11 title defenses, But this victory will be phenomenal. I think that he will become a global superstar, not only in boxing and not only in the world of sports, but just in the world, period. I think that he will find that a trip to the gas station is problematic on a level that he's never seen before.
Well, I don't know how many popes have met the heavyweight champion of the world, which I know you have a boxing glove signed by the Pope.
That was a cool story. I gave Deontay a couple of gloves to get the Pope to sign them, just on the off chance that the Pope would even sign a boxing glove. Yeah. And I think a lot of people had that idea. So there's like 8 gloves that were handed to the Pope. Yeah. And of all the gloves, he reaches for the one Deontay handed him. Yes. Which was great for me because that was my glove. And the cool thing about it was, as popes go, Pope Francis is known to be the most low-key, down-to-earth, everyman. So he didn't sign the glove, His Excellency, the fabulous, wonderful Pope. He just signs it, Francis. And so he hands the glove back to Deontay, and then he turns and walks away. So everybody else is standing there with their gloves handed out. Yes. And nobody's going to go to the Pope and say, hey, you got these other ones.
Yeah, you don't do that to the
Pope. I'm not going to do that
to
the Pope, right? So as it turns out, mine is the only one that got signed. And I thought, that was the coolest thing. So Deontay comes back, and we talk on the phone like 6 times when he gets back from Italy, and he never mentions the glove at all.
Oh, man.
So I'm thinking, okay, he must not be getting the glove. And then like the 7th time we talk, he says, oh, I got that glove signed for you by the Pope. I'm like, no, we've talked about like lunch. I'm like, the glove from the Pope didn't make the top 6 conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's Deontay. He's like, yeah, I got that glove.
That just goes to
now
show you
it's,
how
now
humble
it's
he is.
like the centerpiece on, so there can't be too many gloves signed by Popes, right?
That's awesome, Jay. Thank you so much for your time. You're always gracious, always a pleasure. Jay Dees, everybody, give a round of applause. One of the co-trainers of Deontay Wilder, the Bronze Bomber. Again, speak with the PR teams. Javon Sugarhill will be in here.